Welcome, and thanks for joining me here on LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning. I've spent the last 6 years creating courses on LinkedIn Learning with about 40 courses in the library right now, all related to construction management, software used in construction management, or occupational safety and health. But my courses are just a little tiny portion of the entire LinkedIn Learning library, and I'm constantly amazed by the things I learn when I follow some of the other non-construction related instructors. One of my favorite instructors to follow is Ray Villalobos. Ray's main gig is creating courses for full stack developers, and I don't even really know what that is, but I love his newsletters and his videos because many times they talk about something that's really interesting that I end up being able to use in life or at work. That's what I find so fascinating about not just the courses on LinkedIn Learning, but the people behind those courses. Now today I have Ray on the show, and we're going to talk about LinkedIn Learning, the amazing group of instructors, and how you can leverage all this to learn and grow here on Thoughts from the Field. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to pull up the chat. I see we've got quite a few people joining us in the chat already. Thank you. Love to hear from you. Tell us where you're joining from. It's always amazing to me to see people from all over the world tuning in and watching the live stream. That's really cool. So thanks for saying hi in the chat. Hi, Anne-Marie. We've got I see a few other LinkedIn Learning instructors besides just Ray, who's going to join us in a few minutes. Before I pull Ray up onto the screen here, I wanted to talk about just a few things. The last couple of live streams I've talked about live events coming back and breaking through the virtual thing and getting live again. Two events that are coming up are Autodesk University, which I've really missed for the last 2 years. There's actually a call for entries out for Autodesk University for speakers right now that closes in probably less than a week. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to do that. I really hope that these in-person events go well and we all get to see each other and be in the same room again. And the other one that also has a call for speakers and papers out is the Bluebeam Extreme Conference. Those are kind of my two conferences. We already cleared World of Concrete back in January, went really well. We talked a couple weeks ago about the International Builders Show, went really well. So I'm just really happy that we're getting some of these in-person events back, and I hope to see you at one or more of these in the near future. I have a public service announcement, I guess we'll call it, and I'm going to pull up a picture that I took on the way to work this morning. It is currently Work Zone Awareness Week. So for the construction industry, maintenance people, I think this was some landscapers out doing work. It's Work Zone Awareness Week, and the big push in Work Zone Awareness Week is to tell people like you and me that drive down the road to watch out for these work zones, right? Like you see up on the screen here, and slow down. We unfortunately have a lot of incidents in the US, North America, around the world, where workers in these work zones get struck by vehicles, and that usually doesn't go real well for the worker because the car is a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier. So we encourage you to slow down and watch out when you're passing these work zones. But since this picture is up here, I wanted to go a different direction, and I also wanted to speak to a lot of the people that are my followers and my viewers who are setting up these work zones. Don't set things up that look like this, please. There is nothing in the watch handbook, the work area traffic control handbook, or the MUTCD, or any other manuals that you'll find out there that says it's okay to take half a lane. It's the worst thing you can do. It causes accidents. The motorists approach half a lane like this. They think they can pass, and they get right up there and they realize they can't. They slam on their brakes. The reason I stopped and took a picture of this is that's what I saw this morning is almost a really bad accident involving quite a few people. Make sure you know what you're doing when you set up these work zones. Managers, employers, companies, when you send your people out and they're not trained, and you give them 10 traffic cones and no signs, and you don't give them a plan, this is what happens. Train your people, have a plan, go over it with them, and be safe in these work zones, everybody, please. We all need to keep each other safe. So please be cautious as you approach these work zones during this week, and then, of course, throughout the rest of the year. All right. With that, I am going to bring Ray onto the screen here. Sorry, I give you no notice there. I like to surprise people.
It's all good.
Ray, thank you so much for joining me. I think you're on the other side of the U.S. for me, right? I'm on the West Coast. You're over on the East Coast.
Yeah, correct. I'm in the land, Florida, which is sort of between Orlando and Daytona Beach for reference.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, I gave like a little tiny introduction in the opening. You're on the tech side of things. Well, a couple things. You're a staff instructor, so maybe explain that to us, and kind of tell me what you do in the LinkedIn Learning Library, because you have a lot of courses.
That's true. Yeah. So a staff instructor is essentially somebody that works full time to create courses for the library. So it's not something that is as common as it used to be, but there's a few of us that have been here for a while, and essentially on certain areas that are a very sort of high traffic, high volume, like high, activity. They hired certain people to just produce a lot of courses. And now we do a lot of other stuff, I think, which is mainly try to sort of figure out the things that we should be covering. So that's one of our jobs, is to sort of figure out what sort of things within our own segments like we should be doing, and then exploring. Part of like being a senior staff instructor is just trying to sort of help in some of these new flourishing sort of things that we have that appear on the platform, and be a little, play a part of a little bit of a more leadership role in those situations. But I have a lot of courses. It's about 50, probably about a little bit, maybe more than you. I mean, in my segment, our courses are very ephemeral. So like once I launch something, sometimes it changes like while I'm recording it. So I have to sometimes re-record things. The front end of the web is essentially building the kind of experiences that most people encounter when they go to a website. So that just changes so often. So
sure.
Yeah. But I learned something. I really enjoy watching things that I don't normally watch. So I learned something today. I imagine that it's probably not okay to go in like between the cones, right? Like, don't take up half the road.
Yeah, no, we don't like it. We don't like it when people use the cones as a flaw. Ray, the problem with that is like when the first person does it, the entire string of traffic behind them will do the same thing. They will know it's wrong. They'll know but they're like, the car in front of me did it. I'm doing it too.
Yeah. Hey, I'm following along like a lemming. That's great. Yeah. So that's the surprising thing is that, the library is so big. But the way that I like to think about it is that we all have interests other than the thing that we are directly maybe doing or are responsible for. So, I like photography, for example, video editing. Like those are some things that I like, not necessarily things that I do with courses. So I'm able to learn a lot of things from some of my other interests. And I found that to be the case just in humanity in general. Nobody is hyper-focused, where jobs tend to get like hyper-focused, like full stack development, front-end development. Those are very specific things, but people often have other interests. And that's why it's great to see a library that can tailor to those things as well.
Yeah, I clicked a little early, but I was trying to pull up a segment that you have, or a course that you have in the library, or at least you have a video or two in the library called Tech Trends. And again, I'm a construction guy. That's all I've ever done. Right. I live, eat, and breathe construction. My 9-year-old knows the difference between a concrete truck and a cement truck. That's what I do. Right. And my wife's, in construction as well. So we're like a construction family, but, I love like the Tech Trends episode, or course, because you were talking about what is the metaverse, right? So all of us keep hearing about the metaverse and how is it going to be important? Like, is it like, I don't even know, I'm not sure what it is. Do I need to know what it is? And you have like this little 5-minute segment in there that just perfectly explains what the metaverse is.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of other stuff in there that I think is really interesting as well. So you all, like as staff instructors, kind of come together and just put together
Try
these short video clips that you think people
Yeah,
will
I
find.
think part of the sort of part of our jobs is to sort of try these things out and see if they're gonna be something that are going to gather, a lot of, I don't know, interest. And so this course is actually doing fantastically well. So it's definitely something that I think would be interesting to other people. And our concept here was, let's just try to explain things that people are hearing about that they might be interested in a way that's kind of easy to understand. So if you look at the particular video that you're playing, I talk about like how I love ping pong, but I can't find anybody to play with me. And that like in my house, and plus the ping pong table takes up so much room. Like you don't realize it's not just the table, but it's the room around the table that really gets you. And then whenever I'm ready to play, like nobody wants to play, so the metaverse, gave me an opportunity to play that game with within a small space. And I really have enjoyed it. And I talk about other things, but I don't know, it feels like a really good opportunity to sort of cover certain topics that are interesting and that people want to know about. And that's part of our, of what we do as staff instructors right now. And you'll probably see, like, I remember when we first got purchased by LinkedIn, I created like one of the first career focused like front-end development courses. Like it was a course for my group, but it was on careers. And then that segment exploded. So I expect to see more of this kind of stuff. I think a lot of times it's easier for us to do them because we're not, they just pay us like a salary. So they don't have to sort of figure out if we have 10 people doing one course, is it really worthwhile for somebody to make a tenth of the money that they would make? And what if the thing is like, what if nobody wants to watch that? So it's easier for them to like do an experiment with us, and then we can, move it along to some other place.
Well, yeah. And there's several other, I'm going to try and find some more because I know Daniel Stanton's here too, but there's several other LinkedIn Learning instructors that I see joining and watching in the feed. Anne-Marie makes courses on graphic design. You got
that's like the other thing that I love, that sometimes the courses that like sometimes you need like an emergency course. You have to put together like a PowerPoint and you know how to do something, or Excel. Yeah. And I think Anne-Marie's course is like InDesign. I haven't had to use InDesign in a while, but when I did, I would look up one of her courses because I didn't know how to do something. And it's kind of like that, when you watch The Matrix and the guy learns how to do Kung Fu like within a few minutes. That's pretty much the thing that allows you to do that, the ability to just go in there, look at a course, and then sort of solve a problem that's really common.
Yeah, and one of the things that's happened during the pandemic is, as you're well aware, the LinkedIn Learning studios that we all love to go to closed down, and they're still working on when it will be safe to reopen and fly people back in and all that kind of stuff. And so you're already pretty familiar. You were already probably pretty familiar with remote recording because you're a staff instructor and putting out these regular videos. But a lot of the rest of us instructors had to kind of pivot along with our production crew to develop courses that we could record remotely. Anne-Marie is working on a Kung Fu course at the moment, Ray. Apparently.
That's great. I would love that. I would love to watch that. We need that.
Well, like here's an example. So Daniel Stanton, who teaches supply chain, right? All of a sudden COVID hit, everybody's shutting down. The supply chain, is a mess. We keep hearing about all these things. And, Daniel was able to put together, he already had like the detailed course for supply chain managers, right? But he was able to work with our production team and quickly put together this like, hey, what does everybody need to know about supply chain? What do you need to understand so you get what's going on? So I mean that kind of stuff I think is really cool, and I think it makes LinkedIn Learning somewhat unique out there among different.
Yeah, totally. And I think that now that LinkedIn itself has provided like all these different menus, like this, what we're doing right now, is a way of interacting with people that maybe have watched some of the stuff that we do. But the ability to do this kind of thing where we get to interact with people and answer questions, I think it's really, really powerful because it takes a platform to the next level. So I put together this series of courses on front end, like essentially cutting edge things that people might be interested in learning about. And I call that show the Toolbox, and I try to do it every week. And it's just a way for me to explore things that if I were to put them in the library, people will probably not watch them because they're so cutting edge that people don't really know about them. But the ability to do these kind of presentations where we're interacting with people and we can cover things that are more perhaps like news focused or more trends. And this is why we call that series like Tech Trends, that it's something that you may want to know about. In our niches, like you can, teach about those things and then find out, hey, is there any interest in some of these? And I know that I'm planning to put together a course based on those like cutting edge frameworks that I have done, because it's great content. Once you've done it once, then people can watch it again. So the ability to put them on the platform, I think, is powerful. Plus all the interactivity that we get now with all the additional tools that we have. And instead of just courses, we can publish some of these smaller things that I think can be meaningful to people.
Yeah. So one of the things that I hear a lot is that there's starting to be a lot of content on there, and how do I find it all? And you mentioned again, like one of the things that I think is really kind of sets LinkedIn Learning apart. You mentioned your live stream, and then obviously the live stream that I'm doing a couple times a month here. And so one of the things that I'm not sure a lot of people know about yet that I think is really cool is they've given us as instructors the ability to kind of highlight our live streams that we're planning and scheduling and doing right on LinkedIn Learning. So if you haven't seen it yet, you go to the LinkedIn Learning homepage, and I think it's, what is it here? The third carousel is actually, like here's instructors who are doing live streams coming up. Hey, here's ours right here, Ray. And this is a great way to find some of those additional activities that authors and instructors are doing. So I'm just not sure a lot of people know about some of the discoverability there that I think is really nice. And like you said, it does allow us to interact more with our learners, which I think makes us a bit unique in terms of platforms that are out there as well. Now you have, so you're doing your live stream every week?
Just about. I mean, it just depends. As you know, when I'm developing courses, my productivity slows down to a crawl other than working on that course. But I try to do it about weekly with some gaps in there. But it's usually on Wednesday, so I'll have one tomorrow. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I think the ability to cover those things that are more trendy and cutting edge actually has changed my perspective and helped me sort of realize like the differences between things that I wouldn't normally cover. And I think it's been good for me. And then the interaction and meeting people who have taken my courses and answering questions. I'm not a real extrovert, but I think for an introvert like me, I really enjoy talking to people who are like me, which is hard for me to find. So I think that, you married somebody, that's in your industry. My wife she likes hiking, and pretty much like gardening, pretty much everything I don't like. She loves that. So opposites attract. And I think it's really nice to find, like my people. Usually when I go to a conference, it's kind of a similar experience. Like you're there with people that you can tell like a JavaScript joke to, and they would get it, whereas if I do that to my wife, I have to explain it, or my family as well. So it's nice. It's nice to like just have a place where you can, interact and meet with people who are like you for a change.
Yeah. And Ray, have you used, so one of the things I've been using for like the past 2 months is the new audio events feature on LinkedIn, which I think is really cool because it actually, so like right now, you and I can see the comments that people are posting, and I can pop them up here and okay, so here's LinkedIn user. That's the one. That's the anonymous. We don't know who you are, but I actually joined to watch about concrete. So which is funny, right?
Yeah.
And the audio events though allow us, instead of just putting comments on the screen, they allow all the attendees to actually raise their hand, and I can pull them up and unmute them and talk, and have a two-way conversation, or even get multiple people up there and have a conversation, which is
Yeah,
really kind of interesting.
I've been meaning to sort of get into that. I know that I've been in Clubhouse before, which is another social media platform that has a
Yeah.
similar sort of concept, and it's really a lot of fun because you learn so much from just talking to other people, that that ability to interact in that manner is really fantastic. So I'm looking forward to doing something with audio events at some point. But I really think that it has a lot of potential because it's a different experience. It's sort of like if you do like a, I don't know, family call, like where you have like a bunch of people and just that kind of interaction, or if you are like in a group environment where everybody gets to chime in. I think that's pretty cool, and there's a lot of potential there for a lot of different kinds of engagements that I think are super cool. So looking forward to that. I mean, I know you've been doing that already, and I look forward to I think you've scheduled them pretty close to usually the day that I'm doing a stream, I can't watch anything else. So I think the scheduling hasn't worked that I've been able to attend. But yeah, I mean, and what would I say about concrete? Like I would have to show up with like a piece of my driveway or something and say, what is this or something? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is interesting because I've been doing them as what I call like my office hours format. So, back when I was teaching the ASU, office hours were just, I'm here, drop in, ask me questions. And so that's what I've been doing. And it's a great platform for that. But then you also sort of run the risk of, like, okay, there's a bunch of people listening and somebody just asked me a question and I have absolutely no idea what they just asked me, right? Like, and I had that about a month ago. Somebody asked a concrete question of all things that, like, I honestly, I've been in concrete since I was 15 years old. I had no idea what he was talking about, and it was like a legitimate question. I just had no idea. But the cool thing about the platform is that you got everybody else and you can sort of reach out. It's kind of like being back in a class, right? You can reach out to everybody and say, all right, I think that's a really good question. I know about this much about it, but I know there's somebody else listening, raise your hand, come up here and tell us what you know.
Yeah, the wisdom of crowds. I mean, there's just no way that we can know everything or cover everything. And I find that even in the streams that I do, that a lot of times, I'll get a question and either, there's a lot going on when you're doing one of these streams that people don't necessarily watch, a lot of monitoring. And if you just like not necessarily pay attention, you just get thrown off. Or maybe like you didn't quite understand the question because it's hard to read a question and understand what the point was. Sometimes just that ability to interact is really fantastic. I was going to tell you a story of like the thing that I'm terrified of is that I would show up and I wouldn't like know what to say. So I usually try to have like a topic for all of these just to, and present like, I don't know, I'm just the kind of person that likes to have things, sort of scheduled. And I love the interaction. I wish it was more of that, but my wife she had these two grandmothers and she would call one of them and they would talk for an hour and a half. Right. And, my wife wouldn't actually say anything. Like the grandmother would just tell her things like an hour and a half. And it was just surprising because you would hear my wife on the phone going, oh, yeah, yeah. And then she would call the other grandmother. And it was like the whole call was about 15 seconds. It would be, how are you doing? I'm doing good. How about you? I'm doing fine. And then nobody would talk. And then they would just go, okay, well, I'll talk to you later. And what's funny is that the first grandmother that talked for an hour and a half would always tell her what a great conversationalist like my wife was, because she just listened. So, I think that there's something to like being able to listen to people that's really fantastic. And you learn so much from, other people's just perspective, and being able to talk about things is great. And, who knows, maybe they'll think you're a great conversational. So maybe I would do great in a concrete meeting room,
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you never know. And my, Ray, my big fear on those events, particularly the audio events that I'm doing, because I really I'm not scripted. I have no format. I mean, I can probably go talk forever about something, right? But that's not my thing. Like that, I want those to be, you show up and you ask questions. So my big fear is I'm going to get on there and they're like crickets, right? Like nobody's there.
Right.
Nobody's got any questions. Like we have fantastic. I can't even keep up with the comments that we have in our live stream right now, right? Like that's fantastic. I'm great with that. Give me the pressure, but like no questions, man. I'm like,
yeah, that would just terrify me. Maybe it's just because as instructors, like we don't want that space in our, like we have to continuously talk. So
that's
yeah,
right.
That's scary.
Right.
That's gotta be scary. And I don't know. I mean, I'd have to have a topic or something. So, but yeah, I mean, it's exciting when you have interaction, when people are commenting. I think that makes it so much better. That makes the whole experience for everyone really a lot better. So that's very enjoyable.
Yeah. So, okay, Ray, I want to shift gears for a minute and there before I lose some of these questions in the stream.
Oh,
so
okay.
Anne-Marie was asking, are audio events recorded? Can we watch the ones you've done already? And the answer to that right now is no. So like this video live stream, you'll be able to return to whenever you want. You just come to this event page and you can replay it. You think it's really cool, you can send it to like 100 of your friends, and then Ray and I would be really happy with that. But the audio events, because there's so many people interacting and talking, I think the product team for right now has said we're not going to allow those to be recorded. So they're just live. So you have to show up, you have to be there, which I think is kind of cool. But also if it bombs because there's only 3 people on there and no one's asking questions, it's really cool because the only people that know are those 3 people, right?
Yeah, I think that like in Clubhouse, the concept is that they don't record it because they want you to be kind of open and willing to be able to speak about topics without feeling like, oh, my boss is going to find out that I asked, how do I get a job in your industry? So okay. I think that partially that was the concept. I don't know. I mean, from what I understand, some people would record them as long as they would tell people in advance that they were recording it, because you can always record through some separate application. But I think that's the original concept, and I don't know where it's going to go because it's very much like a little beta test right now, the type of things that we would normally do.
So. Yeah, it is definitely, the audio events is definitely in beta. I've had fun with it. I'm still doing them every Wednesday for now. I've gotten and I don't know, Ray, have you gotten this? So I've gotten some requests that are like, hey, I really enjoy showing up to your live stream or your audio event, but it's the middle of the night for me. Can you do one in a different time zone? So I've done 2 now, like where I get up at 1 a.m. and do it.
Wow.
And I get like this whole other audience. So
no, for me, like it's always been dependent on when my kids aren't going to be here. Because I have a multiple floor house, and I call them the elephants, because when they get running around and chasing, plus like the dogs, my dog will come in here and start barking, which makes it tough. So if I record something from home, I usually record it pretty late, but I know that I have this my kids usually go out at the particular time that I have my streams. And so that's the only reason why it's scheduled that particular day at that particular time, because I'm pretty sure they're not going to be here. Because I remember one time I was like in my office recording something, and I told them, okay, kids, I'm going to record something for like about a minute. It's just going to take me a minute. Can you guys be quiet? And you start recording, and they would be quiet for about like 15 seconds. And then
oh, let's see, Ray. I think you froze up, which is weird. So I've never had that happen before. I'm gonna talk and kind of cover you up and see if we can get you unfrozen here. But one of the questions I did want to back up to is, how does somebody pay for your courses? Which I think is a really good question, because there's a lot of people that have access to our courses that may not even know about it. So LinkedIn Learning and what see if I could kind of put this back up on the screen here. So the LinkedIn Learning courses that Ray and I talk about, that's the paid side of LinkedIn. And you can subscribe to LinkedIn Learning, and honestly, I think it's like $29 a month, but I lose track of that. There's also a lot of people that have access to the LinkedIn Learning courses because their company is an enterprise client of LinkedIn Learning and subscribes and gives access to all of their employees, which I think is really cool. And I've seen that be very successful. But the other thing is that if you have any kind of paid LinkedIn account, so you have like Sales Navigator or Job Seeker or any kind of paid LinkedIn account, you have access to the whole entire LinkedIn Learning library. And again, I lose track. I think there's 15,000 courses or, something along those lines in the library. So you have access to all of those if you have any kind of paid LinkedIn account. Bowman, hopefully that answers your question. Then there's the other things that we're talking about, the live streams. I'm hoping we get Ray back because I really want to talk about his newsletter and some of those things. Those are just in the LinkedIn feed. So if you're watching this right now, you're watching it in the LinkedIn event page, and it's streaming right to that event page in the feed. And those are the things that are free. So there's a lot of content out there that is discoverable that's not on the paid side, where the LinkedIn Learning courses are. And some of the ways that you can find these things. Let me see. Give me just a minute here. Let's see if I can get Ray back. Nope, I'm not getting Ray back. Some of the ways that you can find these things are to go find instructors. Ray is texting me and saying his machine just crashed. Anne Marie says at least he's smiling. I pulled Ray off the screen so we wouldn't see him frozen, but that's always fun with some of these LinkedIn Live events as well. Daniel and a few of the other instructors that are on here know what I'm talking about. It's always fun to go live without your production crew and all the people that are normally behind us when we're making a very formal LinkedIn Learning course. When we're live streaming like this, it's kind of just us, and we're the producer, we're the on-screen talent, we're kind of the whole thing. So you take these technical issues as they come. But yes, so there's one comment. Yeah, LinkedIn Premium makes it all. There's several other comments that keep posting through here, and I just want to make sure before I move on from those comments. If you have any type of paid LinkedIn account, you have access to LinkedIn Learning. If you happen to go to your profile and you see a little gold in badge on your profile, that means somehow you have access to LinkedIn Premium. Maybe your company's paying for it. Maybe you have Sales Navigator, that type of thing. But those are all things that get you access to the LinkedIn Learning courses. Again, there's just so many topics on there. Discoverability was really the next thing I wanted to talk about with Ray, and how do you find all these things? So I showed you. Let's see if I can put the screen back up here. Make it a little bigger. I showed you, in one case on the LinkedIn Learning homepage, you can go down and find live office hours with experts. Anything in that bar is a LinkedIn Learning instructor who has one or more courses on LinkedIn that is also doing live stream events like this one. So everything you see on that bar there, so like there's Ray's tomorrow. Here's entrepreneurship, marketing, and more with Kim. I love to watch Kim's shows. She's on every week as well on Coffee with Kim. But these are all LinkedIn Learning instructors who are doing live streams. They're free. You can either find them here on LinkedIn Learning, or if you don't have access to LinkedIn Learning, you can go search for live stream events on LinkedIn in the main feed, and get access to them through the event page, just like you're watching right now. But basically anything you see here on live office hours with experts, those are all LinkedIn Learning instructors who are kind of taking extra steps to produce these live streams like Ray and I were talking about. So that's one way that you can find and leverage that additional information, that additional interactivity. But the other thing is just go look for those people that you want to follow, those people that talk about things that interest you on LinkedIn, and make sure to follow them. There's a new feature on LinkedIn besides following people. There's also a bell next to many people's profiles. I think it's in the top right corner now. And if you click on that bell, not only will you follow that person on LinkedIn, but you will also get notified every time that they post. So that's a great way to keep up with people as well. Ray, we got you back here.
See, speaking of which, I think the kids probably, I heard them running upstairs, so they probably a little early. Oh, the Xbox is not working. Let's just unplug the internet. You know, classic. My dog walks in here any moment now, of course.
Absolutely. And you know, and we're just kind of all used to that now, right? After the last 2 years.
Yeah. So I apologize. Yeah.
All right. So Ray, I was kind of talking about discoverability. We had some questions on how do I get access? How do I find things? There's some questions like Omar's here about continuing education or PDU certificates, that type of thing. Daniel had some comments here. Many LinkedIn Learning courses are approved from PDUs. From organizations like Project Management Institute, NASB, et cetera, which I think is important too. So I have a lot of courses. I know Daniel has a lot of courses. Bonnie is another instructor who teaches project management that have been reviewed and approved for
continuing education credits and stuff, which is fantastic.
Yeah, from the Project Management Institute. And you know, I think so that's really cool because you can kind of learn, and then you get that you know, not only the certificate from LinkedIn that says, hey, you completed this course, but you also get that official certificate, like in my case from the Project Management Institute, that says you can use this course for credits to keep your certification or license.
You know, anything I think helps. Like those kind of things I think are fantastic because when somebody, think about how people find employees, you know, they look through the profiles and they want to see things that stand out. So I think like having, you know, making sure that you have shown that you watched a lot of courses and skills. We hear from our research team that doing things like the tests, for example, gets more visibility from employers. So anything that you can do to make yourself stand out is really important. So even if you're thinking about, although it gives you, you know, certificate credits towards a continuing education thing, I think just, you know, from a looking to show that you have some skills perspective, it's really great to do those things. And I think that it makes you just stand out. And that's really what you want if you're using your profile as a way to look for other opportunities. The ability to stand out from other people is one of the things that are, you know, going to get you those either opportunities or, you know, your next job or career. You know, I was a career switcher myself, and, you know, doing those things is what makes you stand out.
Yeah, good point. And that's so you do bring up a really good point. If you watch a course and you watch the whole course, there actually is that certificate that's issued at the end, and you can post those to your LinkedIn profile, right? So that
Correct.
That kind of helps you stand out. I don't have a lot of those because I like that's kind of not how I learn, right? Like I'm looking for one thing. Like I haven't watched that whole tech trends series that you all have on LinkedIn Learning. I just go through and I'm like, oh, Android apps on Windows 11, I want to watch that. And then, you know, what's the metaverse? I'm going to watch that. And so I tend to watch, you know, the smaller video clips.
The specific things. Some people really love the certificates. I mean, it's you don't know what people who are looking for employees are going to look at, but I know that when I applied for this job, as a staff instructor, I could tell way back when, before LinkedIn had acquired Linda, that they were looking at my profile. And so if even if it's, you know, when I interview people or when I say that I'm talking to somebody even from within the company, or be it if somebody invites me to another podcast or something, I look them up and I'm looking at that page. So whatever you have that page is important because it's going to be a reflection of activity And also it's going to let them know, oh, wow, they've taken a course on this. So the more data people have about you, I think when they are interacting with you, the better it is. And honestly, I don't usually show up to a meeting without looking at somebody's profile. Heck, I looked at your profile, it's just good, when you don't know somebody in a personal way, like we've known each other for quite a while. It's a great way to sort of get an idea. Oh, what are these people posting about? What are they interested in? What things have they completed? All that shows up, and it's just excellent data.
Yeah. There's a few more. I was trying to go back through real quick and look at some of the questions that we missed. So I want an AutoCAD course. Boom, there you go. There's there's a million AutoCAD courses on there from Sean Bryant, our friend that's over in London. So he's even got that great British accent, when you watch his course.
I wish I could do that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I can too, but my wife says I can't.
Not that good. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. But they're just, I think you're hard pressed to find, there's so many courses in the library. It's hard to find a topic that's maybe not in there. Right. There's a course on concrete in LinkedIn Learning, which some people find really interesting. And
I think that there's a sense in which, there's so much stuff out there that a lot of times you can find certain people that speak to you, or that like their teaching style is really how you like to learn. And if you watch my courses, I teach how I like to learn. So I tend to learn more from exercises and practice. So usually if you watch my stuff, I usually build something. And so you're learning. Some people enjoy more of a, sort of college professor style, where if it's conceptual, then you want to learn about the concepts and you want to hear them discussed. Some people like to, feel like me, that if you build something, there's things that you're going to learn that aren't in the books or aren't in the manuals, that you're going to run into only when you are trying to do something. And those things are how I push myself to learn. So I think you can find people who have different styles. And that's the beauty of having so many things, that if you learn more by doing, you can try a course that it's built this. If you would like to, take notes, we provide those features as well. There's a lot of courses and a lot of ways to take them, but then also a lot of styles. And I think that the more the merrier. That's the advantage of having such a huge library.
Yeah. Well, and then pull it all together. I think that the ability to add to your course, like I don't know about you, but my concrete course, for example, since I published that course, there's been this huge, very significant change in sustainability in producing cement, which is an ingredient in concrete. There's your concrete lesson for the day. Cement and concrete, two different things. Cement is the dry powder. It's like the flour in the cake, right? So sand, rocks, water, and cement, that makes up concrete. There's your concrete lesson for the day. But cement, unfortunately, produces a lot of CO2, and it's one of, so sustainability and greenhouse gas emissions are big topic in cement and concrete. And we suddenly, after I've already published the concrete course, we have like this huge breakthrough in, how do we produce cement in a more sustainable manner? And so we're able to go on and live stream and talk about that without having to redo a whole course, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that happens to me. I mean, a version of something will come out, say like version 5.0 of Bootstrap, and then they'll have a 5.1, 5.2. So occasionally I go in and I'll update those specific chapters, which is great. But then eventually when a new version comes out, then I usually publish like a completely different course. So that's actually fantastic that you're able, especially on a course like that is so huge, and there's so much of it that doesn't change. But when there's a new thing, we have the ability to add things to an existing course, or do whatever we need to.
Yeah. Well, and then, okay, so let's see, do you have new courses, or do you have courses on SAP BO, which I've got, Ray, do you know what that is? Because I have no idea. I don't even really know what that is, but just like a quick search on LinkedIn Learning, and
but Power BL, Power BL is really, really popular. I know we have a lot of courses on that.
Oh yeah, and there's SAP Business One. So there, Tara, there you go. Yes.
Yeah, that's like a
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, the chances are we probably have them and a lot of them, but we wouldn't even know. I mean, another thing to do is look at like paths. So we have these concepts called learning paths where we group courses into how to be a front-end developer, how to be a full stack developer. I imagine they have some for concrete, how to do Roman concrete or whatever that is.
Yes.
But how to be a concrete specialist. I don't know anything about it.
Yes.
But
no, we have it's actually the construction management learning path.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
And concrete is one course in that path.
And that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you need like an emergency course. And the nice thing is that what I love about the library, and I've always loved this, is that you really everybody who's in the library is really good. Like sometimes when you go to YouTube, they have a lot of stuff, but sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get. Like you can't understand what they're saying. Or I remember this course with this, bless this guy, but he had this like what do you call it? Like sheet behind him. But the problem wasn't that he had a bed sheet. It was that he didn't iron the bed sheet. And it was driving me nuts because I wasn't paying attention to him. It was just the fact that he like a little bit of steam or something would have made the course a lot better. But I think that we definitely watch quality and I think we hire adequately and try to cover things from people that have experience, people that usually work in the industry, people that we hire people that understand the topic really well. And that's fantastic. I remember when I was in the newspaper industry that they had this one program where if you signed up, you would go to all the meetings where they made the decision as to what goes in the front page of the newspapers. And that was really interesting. So I signed up. Okay. And one of the assignments was you have to read the newspaper every day, like the whole newspaper every day. And I had to read, like grab a newspaper and read the whole thing and then come to the meeting. So like by noon when they have a couple of these meetings, once a day to decide what went on the front page of the print newspaper. So that was hard, like reading a whole newspaper. There's a lot of stuff in there. But and so I read that every week, every day. And then at the end, you did a presentation, and every day they would sort of talk about all the editors would sort of chime in and say, this is my article that I think would belong in the front page. They would kind of pitch for their articles. So it was super interesting. But the one thing that I learned from that experience was how good all of the people were, and this is dumb, but it's how good they were at writing. Like they were all really good writers. I read, and I don't play golf, but I read the golf section. Fantastic storyteller. I read the fishing section. I don't fish, but what a great writer. Like everything that I thought I was not gonna like, I learned so much from like looking at their storytelling style, and they were just good at what they did and they knew what they were doing. So that's, I think, one of the advantages and what you get with us, that we've gone through and picked people that really understand the topics, and that even if you maybe, Power BI is a fantastic product. And I feel confident that if I went to that course, I would get a lot of value out of it because the people, even though, it might not be something I do every day, the people are really good.
Yeah. Well, and you're 100% right. I mean, I did not know what to expect when I started recording with LinkedIn. So I started like the month that LinkedIn bought lynda.com, right? So the first time I went out to the studios, everything was lynda.com branded. And then the second time I went out, it was gone and it was all, like LinkedIn. And I had no idea what to expect. And like you said, you watch YouTube courses. I had put a couple courses on Udemy just like as proof of concept, like, do I know what I'm doing? Can I even do this kind of thing? And of course on platforms like that, there's like 100 instructors doing the same course, and they're all different quality, and like YouTube, right? You never really know what to, which one's good, which one's bad. And when I showed up at the new LinkedIn Learning Studios, my producer was kind of taking me around. Well, number one, like you have a producer, right?
Yeah, you're like, what?
And a director. So like if your shirt's all wrinkled and it's going to be distracting, the director's like, why go back and change that shirt and, get somebody to iron it or something, so like there's people handling all those details. But besides that, I like sat in and watched a few things and listened to a few people and was like, wow, these, like, everyone here is really good. I gotta be like on my game. I gotta
and they really are there to help you, I think, too. So, just like you get makeup done because you needed that, but you didn't know. And you don't know, like when you go online, I didn't put any anti-shine here, so I'm like shiny in places. But these are like super professionals. The producer is like a huge thing that other people don't get. And then we have like a bunch of people who edit, who are, I often do a course, and when I'm finished, I am like, man, I just sounded like a lot of that was just nonsense. But thankfully, I can tell the editors, and they make me sound so good. I watch the course, and I'm like, wow, I literally think this guy really knows what he's talking about. And it's just me. After they have edited me, I sound like so much smarter because they have taken the time. And then they also, like, for our courses, which are, front end development, somebody goes through the entire course and make sure that if there's anything that has changed since I've done the course, that they test it out. So I know that, one of the big things is like Mac versus PC. So they have tested it out on Macs and PCs, and they identify any potential problems before the course comes out. And there's literally sometimes, places where we don't, at LinkedIn Learning, doesn't release courses that they don't think are, to the level of quality that they need to be, and they might re-record them if that's the case.
Yeah, and you're right. That's there's so many people that touch these courses before they hit the public. They beta test the courses, even and I know they really beta test the like your courses or the software courses or something where you're going through and building something. They go through and make sure that everything that you're saying they can follow and
which is makes me relax quite a bit, because it's really easy to make a mistake or to say something that isn't quite right. When you're saying so much, then you'll say something and you didn't think of the PC version and what the command key for that is. So they'll put like an overlay that says it's pretty staggering the amount of work that happens away from just the recording part, and how much that helps in quality. Quality is something that you don't always notice unless there's like a sheet that hasn't been ironed behind you. You notice it when it's bad. Like when it's bad, you can't focus because why could you not iron that sheet, or, what's wrong with that audio? And so those are the things that you may not notice that they work really hard at perfecting and making fantastic.
Yeah. And here's Helen. We've got another instructor. Yes. Our team, our recording team is really amazing. And there's a lot behind all of us instructors there that are producing these courses. There's way more than like the live stream, right? It's just me and Ray. There's nobody clicking buttons here. That's why
my kids can kick the router and there it goes down for a minute. My dog has walked in and started barking because he wanted to go out, and he doesn't care.
That's right. But in the courses, like there's a whole team making those look really good. Ray, I want to talk about before we because we're kind of getting close to time. I was gonna make this really cool transition when you were talking about the newspapers, but I forgot. I lost it. So we'll transition over to newsletters, because I was when you were off for a few minutes, I was talking about like how do you discover content. How do you keep up with different instructors, different people on LinkedIn? And one of the features that I think is really cool that LinkedIn launched, I don't know, maybe it's been 2 years now, is the newsletter feature, which is kind of an extension of articles on LinkedIn. But the thing that makes newsletters really interesting is that you can subscribe to a newsletter that's being written by an instructor or just somebody on LinkedIn that you want to follow. If they produce a newsletter, you can follow their newsletter, which is how I find most of the interesting things out, like that Ray's doing, because I subscribe to his newsletter, and sometimes I read his newsletter and I go, I don't even really know what he's talking about.
But I have been trying to figure out the right audience. So sometimes I don't know if I should be more general or more specific. So that's something that I need to look at. So sometimes I'm writing just for you, Jem.
Well,
Like, okay,
I mean,
this is like a gym article.
most of the time, before you like pull everything that you're talking about into like front end web development, there's like this great story or this great lesson learned that I can use somewhere else. I can, like, when you pull it all together and you talk about how it's used for web development, you lost me. But like in the beginning, there's always this great content, which I
I think that's kind of what worked for me. It's a really great place for me to be able to talk to an audience that is really like what I consider my prime audience. Like, if you think about the people that watch our courses, sometimes they don't have a way of talking to us. Sometimes they'll write you a message. The newsletter is sort of a way for me to be able to share the things that I think are important. That's one of the things that I learned from that program at the newspaper was that, at the end of the week when we did the presentation and I asked, I was talking about I come from design, so I gave him some design tips, which is weird because clearly the person doing design was fantastic, but they wanted to hear from me. So I think that one of my questions to them was, how do you decide what goes on the on the front page of a newspaper? Like, what do you base that on? And their answer was, well, we want to put things that you should know and also things that we think you should know. And I think that in watching a course, we might give you some of the things that you should know, but there's things that I think that you may not get. When you go to a course, you're already there. You've already picked the topic. You already picked the specific thing that you want to learn. But there's all these other things that I think that we as people in the industry want people to be aware of. And I think that's where following somebody or signing up to their newsletter, it gives you that ability to be able to get a lot of the thought process behind some of the things that we're doing. This live stream that I'm doing, about once a week is about cutting edge technology, or things that I've learned that I'm not going to take 5 minutes of a course to talk about this particular, life event that happened to me, but it's been so formative to everything that I learned so many things from doing that. And that's the kind of thing that I think you can do in a newsletter or in a post or just by following somebody that you can't in a course, because they're very get to the point.
Yeah. And the cool thing about the newsletters is that, so like the newsletters, if you subscribe to somebody's newsletter, when that person posts the newsletter on LinkedIn, you also get a notification in your email. You actually get the whole, if your settings are set up right, you actually get the whole newsletter in your email, which I find just incredibly helpful because, sometimes when I'm scrolling through the LinkedIn feed, I see cool stuff and I try to remember to save it, or like I don't have time, I'm going to come back and read this, and then I can never find it again, right? Like I go back at the end of the day and it's buried somewhere in the feed.
It is kind of difficult to find things sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. If you found something useful, then it's nice to be able to sort of go back through your email and find the thing that you enjoyed. So yeah.
And that's what I love about the newsletters is it comes straight to my email. So if I scan through it real quick, I'm like, oh, I want to come back and read that, I can just save it in my email and I know where to find it. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's a great way to reach a lot of people. I'm still trying to figure out what the format of my newsletter is. Like recently I started going back and I do Bluebeam is one of the software titles that I have courses on that's pretty popular. And I post like Bluebeam tips and tricks every Monday. And so I started going through and trying to put the links in those in my newsletter. So if you've missed it in the feed, you could go back and find it and kind of playing with some of that. But some of these newsletters like Gemma Lay Roberts is one of our instructors on LinkedIn Learning. She has 550,000 subscribers to her newsletter.
Wow, that's crazy.
So some of these newsletters.
You and I definitely have a smaller niche as well. So our subscriber base might not be as huge, but it's definitely very meaningful because, as I mentioned, this is just the people who are like us, who are into the things that we like, and I really respect that interactivity. Somebody who wanted to listen from what I have to say, that's a very valued sort of person. So that's how I see the people that come to the newsletters. This is people who you have really, they're interested in the things that you're talking about. So let's make sure that we provide value to them. So it's not maybe not the quantity, but the value of how I see those individuals that have decided to like listen to the things that I have to say. Like, who cares what I say most of the time? Most of the people I talk to, you try to strike up a conversation on GitHub with, going to the grocery store. It doesn't always work. To see the right T-shirt, like if they have a good programmer T-shirt, that's how I identify my peeps. I don't know what you do. Do you like carry around a piece of concrete or something?
If they're carrying like a hard hat, or they're still wearing their vest or something like that. Used to be they were carrying around the rolls of blueprints, these days, if they're carrying around the rolls of blueprints, I'm probably tapping them on the shoulder and saying, get rid of the blueprints and go digital.
That's great.
So, but yeah,
super.
Well, we're right at about time, Ray. I really appreciate you joining me today. I like Ray said, we've known each other for a while. I always like talking to Ray, but I really appreciate you joining me and just kind of talking about things other than construction and some of the other skills and things that you can learn on LinkedIn Learning and LinkedIn.
So much fun. I really appreciate all the interaction. Looks like we got quite a bit of questions, which is always great.
We do have a ton of questions, and I always try and
somebody watch.
Yeah, I always try and go through the chat, and if there's anything that we can answer, we'll drop those in later.
Okay.
Again, if you know somebody that would like to watch this, please share this event page with them. They can go back and watch it. If you want to follow Ray, you can follow him on linkedin.com/in/planet of the web. And mine is similar. It's linkedin.com/in/RogersGym. Follow both of us. Click on that bell. That bell is new. So when we post, you'll get a notification. We both have newsletters. But go in and search for some of the other LinkedIn Learning instructors and find that content that you're looking for, and make sure to follow them and check out their newsletters and courses. Appreciate everybody being here today. And Ray, you're streaming tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be on tomorrow. So I'm discussing like a very geeky front-end web development platform called Svelte. So if anybody's into that, come see me tomorrow.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, and we'll see you again. I do these about every 2 weeks, so I am scheduled for the 29th. I'm actually going to be on with a couple other LinkedIn Learning instructors, and one of my former students who has surpassed me in terms of using data in construction to build dashboards and learn things about what's happening on your project. So that is April 29th. I'll be streaming there, and you can find that event on my page. We'll talk about data in construction. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Ray, for joining me, and we'll see you next time.